Our project is called the Uber Takeover and is an analysis of whether or not different licensing processes between Uber and taxi companies make one form of transportation safer than the other. Is the formation of Uber good for consumers overall? To become an Uber driver, the company requires that you must be at least 21 years old, have access to a car year 2006 or newer, you must have in-state auto insurance policy in the driver's name, you must have an in-state driver's license for at least 1 year, you must have in-state plates with current registration, and you have to pass local, state, and federal background checks. Uber licensing in Chicago requires that you get your vehicle inspected yearly at a rate of $19.99. Uber signage must be displayed on the registered vehicle, and you must have Uber ID displayed in the vehicle as well as your city emblem. Unlike Uber's easy registration process, to become a taxi driver in a city like New York, it requires a lot more effort. As of summer 2014, taxi medallions cost nearly $1 million. In 2015, a 30% decrease in medallion prices was due to many taxi drivers transitioning to Uber. In many cities, restrictions on entry eventually created monopoly rents for incumbents and medallion owners, even as drivers struggled to make a decent living. Yet deregulation efforts in the 1970s and 1980s failed. Just like in the 1920s, supply went up, but fares also went up and service declined. This graph shows how expensive it is to get a taxi medallion. Currently, the prices are between $1 million and $1.3 million for a license to drive a taxi, whereas Uber drivers pay less than $20 to get their car inspected.
Here we are looking at the economic effects of the introduction of Uber in the market. Before Uber, there was a gap in the market where drivers were not allowed to enter the market because of high regulations and cost of medallions. With Uber, the gap closed because they lowered the barriers to entry, increased the supply, and lowered the price for consumers. With the increased supply from Uber, they have reduced the barriers to entry, started serving underserved areas, reduced the price per ride, increase the quality of the rides, and increase the safety for the consumers. Many people are contemplating whether or not Ubers are safer than taxis. With taxis, both the riders and the drivers are anonymous to each other. 45% of transactions are in cash, meaning the average driver has $100 on hand per day. Occupational fatality rates are 4 times the average, and homicide rates are 20 times the average. With Uber, the driver and their rider are both identified, and there are public reviews of the drivers. The ride is monitored by GPS, and 100% of the payments are electronic. This has been found to reduce the effects of drunk driving.
Recently, Uber has been in the news in the US and around the world. However, these incidences have been overstated in comparison to taxis. There have been cases of women being sexually harassed and even raped. Many of these reports are coming from New Delhi and London. However, even with these issues, Uber is continuously resolving them. They do background checks by 2 different companies, take fingerprints and social security numbers. They are also firing drivers who have made serious crimes and have introduced a panic button that allows riders to press. This way, if they feel they are in danger, they will send alerts to the police. Also, before you ride, riders are allowed to look up the reviews of the drivers and determine if they will ride with that driver. As Uber continues to fix these issues, there was a lawsuit in Portland where the mayor said, "Our main concern is public health and safety because the state invested in the city's responsibility to do that." Uber responded to the lawsuit by saying, "We are eager to work with the city and state leaders to bring the impact of the Uber platform to Portland and to cut down on drunk driving, serve the underserved communities, increase transit to small businesses, and help drive the local economy." Although it may be easier and cheaper to become an Uber driver than a taxi cab driver, Uber is making sure that it completes the necessary precautions. This ensures that each of its riders has a pleasant and safe experience in an Uber vehicle. In conclusion, by reducing the barriers to entry, Uber has benefited consumers by reducing its prices and increasing quality and safety.